Hi everyone, I'm super excited to show this today. It's a project that I have been working on. I've designed some toadstools, so some gnome houses for some slider cards. And as you know, we have some gnome stamps now, and I thought that it would be extremely cute to have them have their own little houses that they could pop out of. So I'll show you straight away. This is something that I have designed on Cricut Design Space. So it's a Cricut cut file, and I'll show you how to assemble all this and everything. But this is what happens when you pull. The little gnome pops up to say hi. Super cute, pretty easy to put together. Everything is cut on Design Space, including the card bases, the sliding mechanisms. The only thing that you need to stamp is this little gnome or one of the other gnomes from our collections. They are super cute, super fun. I've left the sentiment blank here. I'll probably put a happy birthday across the bottom, just popped up on foam tape. You can see that it's fairly dimensional. But as I said, this is so cute, and I could do this for hours just looking at him popping up and down. So I'll just show you our gnome stamp so you can see what we have. So currently we have 2 gnome stamp sets, and they come with thin cuts as well. If you like the thin cuts, you can order just the stamp sets on their own, but I just like to have the thin cuts as well. This one is the Garden Gnomes. It's in our annual catalogue, so that is available for 12 months. And this one, the Spooky Gnomes, they're available for September and October, but they can easily be adapted to make into birthday gnomes, Christmas gnomes. These ones could be Christmas gnomes as well. I just love them, and they are super easy to use. So I have the stamp set and the thin cuts. This little toadstool house wasn't quite big enough to hide a gnome behind it, so that made me want to get a bit creative in the Cricut and design some gnome houses. The first one that we will put together, oh, he's just so cute. The first one that we're going to put together is this little mushroom house. And I've designed them so that there are layers. So I'll just move everything aside, and then we'll get to putting these little houses together. With this specific toadstool house, because the actual stamp is a little bit wider than what the toadstool, if you want a curved trunk of the toadstool is, I had to create another layer for everything to sit on. So that's your base layer here. Each of the toadstools have a base layer for the actual toadstool to make it easier to build. And the first thing that we are going to put on is this layer here. And then it's a case of just adhering all the other elements. So you can see I've got the dark underside of the mushroom, then I'm going to adhere this part, put the trunk of the toadstool on. I needed to have this because if I put that over the top, you can see things peek through. So that will go on. And then the red top part. And then with the door, I've got the blue circle. And I've got the door part that I've cut out of our fabulous new wood paper. But to give a bit of dimension, you'll see that there are 3 overlay elements to adhere together and stack up, and that gives you this dimension on your card to make it look a little bit more 3D and a little bit more real. So these parts will go over the top, and then I have the grass, and you'll notice with the grass that when you cut it, it's all going to cut out, or if you order this as a kit, it's all going to cut out with this green apple on this side, but it's just a case of flipping one over. They're not quite the same cut. The grass goes in a different direction so that you can get a nice layered effect of the grass, and then that bit goes over the top. So I'm going to speed up the adhering process so that you don't have to sit there and watch the whole thing, but I will create this in front of you. So there's toadstool number one. Pretty easy to put together, especially when there are base layers and everything for you to adhere everything to. So we'll put that one aside, and then we'll get to putting this little one together, and he has a little chimney. So that's the first place I'm going to start, and the chimney has layers as well. So you'll be able to see when you put this together that they're the little top parts of the chimney. And then I do have a base layer for everything. So there's the actual body of the toadstool house, and then this layer will go on, and then this one, because there are holes cut out, I wanted to make sure everything would be seen, and then we build from there. So I'll go ahead and I will put this together, and I'll speed this section up for you as well so you don't have to watch the whole thing. And for the grass on this one, I'm going to wait until I've got the card actually put together to adhere the grass onto it, because I don't need that extra panel because a gnome will fit quite easily behind it. So you get the idea of how to put this little house together. So we'll set that one aside. And then we will move on to this little gorgeous one. He might be my favourite. This looks a little bit like petals. So you can see I've got all the pieces here ready to layer, and just like the last one, I'm going to start with the chimney. So I'll speed this section up again so that you can watch quickly how to assemble these. I'm just going to walk you through putting the little roof together for this one. So basically you have the base layer, which is the light side of the grape. And then you have another larger petal or roof section, and that is also going to be the light side. So that bit you put on top here, and we're just going to adhere that, but not press all the way down, so that I can slide other parts of the roof underneath it. I'll just move that out of the way for a sec so I can see. So the large bit goes on, and then it's just a case of matching all of that up. So this edge here will match perfectly, but I want to tuck this one underneath, which is why we haven't pressed down too hard. So the two larger sections, the large heart shape and the other large petal or leaf of it, you put those together, don't press all the way down, and then you can slide this underneath and get it where you want it. Take this one here, which is the dark side of the grape, and put that on the top. And adhere that. Right, so I can press this one down now because we're going to slide this one underneath. And then I'm going to attach this to the base layer of the little house. And once again, not press down too hard because I want to slide that other petal underneath. Because I haven't pressed too hard, I can just easily lift it up and give another layer here to the roof of the house. And then we can get back into speeding it up a little bit while I assemble the door and the window. For this one, I'm not going to put a little door handle on it, and I haven't put a door handle on this one either because I think I might go through my stash and see if I've got any glitter gems to put on there for the door handles. But that is basically the construction of the 3 toadstools. Now you could use these on a scrapbook page if you wanted to. They would look quite cute. You wouldn't put this little background piece behind it here, but they would look fairly cute going along the bottom of a page with some gnome cutouts. And I'm also going to get some of the gnomes that I designed on my Cricut Design Space file that I designed last year, and I'm going to cut some of those out and do some little interactive elements with those as well as the stamp sets. But they're basically the houses. So now we'll get into the construction of the card. And as I said before, these little pieces of grass here will go on these 2 after I've assembled the card. So I'll just set these aside for now. They're just so sweet. Now that we've assembled all of our little mushroom houses or toadstool houses, we're going to put the card bases together. So what you're going to find, if you've cut all of them out on the Cricut, they'll be grouped together as per house. So I've done a green apple, a sage and a grape card base. You will have 3 of these little mechanisms and 3 with slits in them. Now what I've done so people know that it's an interactive card is I've just stamped a little arrow here, and I've used the border tab stamp set, which is part of the Creativity in Motion special for September-October catalogue. If you love making interactive cards, this is a must-have. It's got lots of little words and symbols and everything there. You can purchase it on its own. You can purchase it in a bundle with the entire Creativity in Motion set, but you can buy it in a bundle with just the matching thin cuts, these border tab thin cuts. But I love this little stamp set. If you don't have this stamp set, you can draw an arrow, or you can go through your stash and you're bound to find something with an arrow on there that you can use. So each of these cuts are exactly the same. The card base is the same, the pull mechanism is the same, but because we have 3 different toadstool homes, one of them is slightly different when you look at this part of the slider mechanism. One of the cuts is just a little bit smaller. So just put them together like that and you can see that there's a difference. And it's just to do with the height of the toadstool that I have created. And you'll be able to pick which one it is and take that one out when you're doing the toadstool one. I'm just going to do a double check to make sure I've got the right one. And I can see top and bottom here. So it's this one here that I want to adhere to my card. I'll put everything else aside and I'll just assemble the green apple one on camera for you. Your card bases have been scored with the Cricut, and I've found the best way to do this is to just gently fold it like that until the crease starts happening, and then you can apply some pressure. If you have a bone folder, you can smooth it out with this. If you have a clear ruler, you can take a clean ruler, I should say, you can take that and just run it along the edge. So that's just a nice way of getting a nice, crisp, clean score fold. Now we're going to use some foam tape. So I'm using the regular size, not the 3D size, and I'm using the thin foam tape. How I've designed this is so that the mechanism for pulling fits snugly, and you can see here there is, what would you say? I'll put it up against here so I can tell you. It's about 1/4 of an inch gap all the way around, a little tiny fraction bit more, which fits this thin size, not the thick one, around the edges. So I'm just going to put foam tape all the way around the outside edge, and I'm going to ensure that I've got it as close to the edge as possible. What I suggest you do when you're adhering big sections of foam tape is not stretch it out, just ease it into place. If you stretch the foam tape while you're putting it down, it will cause the paper to warp just a little bit. So I'm not stretching it at all, I'm just easing it down, and then the paper will remain flat and not buckle at all. So up as close to the edge as you want to get it, so that our little pull mechanism will fit nice and snugly. So that should fit. And you can see there's not much room for it to wiggle. You don't want it wobbling all over the place. I'll just peel off the back of this. And then adhere it to the front of my card base. Now there's a slight gap all the way around, so you can see the edge of the card. So the colour shows through, which I think is quite nice. And just adhere that down. I'll do another little test, and that slides in really well. Okay, now we're going to make some magic happen. My toadstool is going to sit, I'm going to adhere this, but I'm only going to just do it on the sides for this one. So my toadstool is going to sit about there, so I've just looked at where that bottom slit is. And then I'm going to pick this one and have him coming out. So I want his hat to be hidden. Now I've designed this, you don't have to use this, but I just help find that when I'm putting this in here, it creates a little bit more length, and then I can adhere my gnome on top so that when he slides up, more of him shows. The first one that I made, I can't see his little boots or the bottom part of him, so I've put this little oval in so that I can then adhere the gnome to that rather than the gnome straight to the sliding mechanism. The easiest way to do this is just the same size foam tape, the regular thickness, not the 3D, because we're going to use the 3D on the outside to pop it up to make sure that the gnome slides up and down. And while everything is assembled, make sure this is pushed down. I'll just put a little bit of foam tape inside that opening, and that will act as a stopper when you go to pull it up. Then I'm going to adhere my oval on top of that, and this is all going to be hidden by the mushroom. Then I need just a little bit more foam tape. You don't need much. The foam tape is really a strong adhesive. I quite like how it holds everything into place really well. Hopefully I've got the right amount. So before I stick anything, I'm going to just slide that up until it stops. Place that in place, and I can see a little bit of his boots coming out, and he looks like he's popping up from the toadstool. So I'm quite happy with how that looks. I'll peel that off. I can pick it up. And that's all the adhesive you need. Just that tiny bit of foam tape to adhere the gnome. And then I'm going to get my 3D foam tape, which is right here. So you can see the thickness here. That's a lot thicker than this one. And I need it to be a little bit thicker so that the gnome fits. I'm just going to go up the side of this mushroom, or this panel. And while he's pushed down there, now the reason why I haven't got across the bottom is because I don't want this to get stuck. I might actually just put a little bit more on each side just to give it that little bit more adhesive. Make sure it really sticks there. And then I just want to make sure that I place that, so I'm going to angle it a little bit on the side so I can see, and that's all nice and clear of the gnome, and centre it. Make sure that the top part of my toadstool hides the top part of that opening, and there we have it. Actually go down just a little bit. I've pushed it a little bit hard, so I'm not going to play with that, but I really love how that looks. And then there's plenty of room to put a sentiment at the bottom. What I would do with the sentiment is stamp it, and I would put your sentiment here and raise that up on foam tape so a little bit of it goes over the top of the grass area here. But I don't want to do all the sentiments now because it might be a thinking of you card, it could be a birthday card, you could even make these into Christmas ones. So I'm just going to assemble them like this and then keep them in my stash ready to send out. So I'll just put the other ones together off camera, and then I'll show you them all sliding up and down. So just bear with me while I do that. Okay, so here are the 3 cards. This one is fully assembled, just like I finished off before. And what I've done with these 2 is just assembled the bases. I thought I would just cover off again what to do when putting them together. So I've put the thinner of the foam tape here to act as my stopper. And as long as you use the same width or the same thickness foam tape adhering this panel that has the slider mechanism cut out of it, and the same foam tape onto the pulling mechanism, it creates a stopper. So I'll peel that off, the foam tape part. We'll stick another little circle, or sorry, oval on here. Oh, I didn't put the foam tape on that. I thought I was being so efficient. Right, where is it? Here it is. I need a little bit of foam tape for the bottom section of both of these gnomes that we're going to put on. So I'll do that one now while I've got it out. And this one as well. And then I'm going to adhere that little section there. Excuse me if my head gets in the way, I just need to line this up because I don't want any foam tape stickiness outside. So that's pulling it. If you get foam tape either side of him or of the oval, you'll find that it will stick to the mechanism. He's a little bit crooked, but I don't mind that. Okay, so now I need to adhere my little house. I've just gone down the side with the 3D foam tape, which is thicker. And when I adhere it, I'm just going to make sure that the top of the house hides that slit here. You don't want that showing on your card. That would spoil the bit of the magic and the surprise. And because it's on the side, I know I've put him a bit lower, but that's okay. So he's popping up nice and cute. And then I need to adhere the grass along the bottom of my house. You'll find that there are 2 different widths on the grass. The one that goes on this little mushroom, it's a little bit smaller because it fits on that panel that we had to create to hide the gnome because of the curved in part of the toadstool. So the wider ones go on the other 2 houses. And then you just stagger them so that it looks like some grass there. And that's that little one done. And now we're going to do the same thing for this one. Adhere the oval. Adhere the gnome up towards the top. The other one I just put down a little bit too low. I had too much foam tape on there, so not as much of him pops out. Check that that one's working. And you can see here again, I've used the 3D tape and I've just put it down the sides. Oh, I was going to show you, when you're doing this, you can use the gnome that you've cut to know exactly where to line it up. So pretend he's not stuck down. You would lay him down on the house there and you know that that's where your tape can go, so you're not obstructing him at all. Then line up the top of the house with that opening so that it covers it. Now just make sure when you're sticking your grass on that you're not going to stick it to that panel. So what you can do is just pop it up a bit, but you don't want to pop it up too much so that his head, his top of his hat is showing. So Just make sure when you're adhering things down that you're not adhering to the mechanism at all. Now I've just cut the 3D foam tape in half like you saw me do before. Not very neatly there, but no one's going to see that. And then I know I can just butt that one up against the other one and put that down. So that's how to put together these Gnome Home surprise slider cards. You can decorate around the edges. I've just done some pen work around the edge here of this little toadstool one if you want to break up a bit of that white space. I did think about putting something underneath here. You could stamp a little sentiment, but I sort of like the clean design. You could definitely use Distress Oxide inks and blend in a bit of a sky and then a green at the bottom. But it really is, this is the base of the card and you can do with it whatever you like. On the inside of this one, I'll probably cut a panel out of some white cardstock to put inside for a greeting. The greetings that are on the gnomes. With the Halloween ones, you could do a Happy Halloween card if that's what you want to do, or you can you could even string across this little thing cut here, the Boo, to have him holding something when he pops up. If you wanted to use him as a Halloween gnome, you could definitely use any of these. I have done stamp surgery on this one. Oh, I should pop him up too. I have done stamp surgery on this one. I've very carefully cut the belt off the hat. It is a little bit tricky to do because the image goes right up against the outline of the stamp. I've cut this one as well. I cut the spider off so that I could hang a little Christmas ornament on there. If you wanted to decorate the front of your cards, you could definitely put images from this stamp set. If you were making a Halloween card, the cauldron, a little cat. You could stamp some bats up on the background if you wanted to make it into Halloween colours. You don't have to stick to these colours. If you buy the Design Space file, you can change it up to whatever colour gnome homes you want. It's totally up to you. These will be mail and make kits for within Australia. So I would generally just cut these out as per these colours unless you have some other colours in mind that you would like to do. But you would need to have, or you can order them from me of course, if you're a customer, you would have these little gnome stamps to pull up out of there. If you've got something in your stash like a fairy stamp or anything really, you can have that to come up out of here as well. So use your imagination, but you've got the basis of the gnome homes. The garden gnome set has some gorgeous little icons in it as well. So imagine having a little watering can or a lantern or a pot plant at the front door. I didn't want to get too involved with creating scenes for these. The main feature for me are the gnome homes themselves, but you could definitely customise these, which I might do on some future ones, or tuck them in here when I know what the gift is going to be, and tuck in a little watering can or the pick, or stamp some little butterflies in the background, make it a night scene and put some more stars around. You can attach to your gnome a little walking stick or a staff, whatever you'd like to call that. He could be a bit wizardy. Didn't even think of that when I was doing the purple. I just love this new grape colour, so I wanted to use it. Or you could give him a little shovel to hold. The possibilities with these gnome stamps is basically up to you. There's plenty to put and add to your page. Putting a sentiment like "here for you no matter what," or "there's gnome body like you," or "hello friend," or "welcome gnome," if you wanted to make this into a housewarming type card. If someone's moved recently, this could easily become a housewarming card, and you could have a welcome gnome. You don't have to stick with the straight happy birthday sentiments or something like that. Look in your stamp set and see if there's something that fits. But as I said, I would probably stamp this onto white and cut that out, and probably even trim it out with a coordinating cardstock from here. The new cardstocks I've used here, this one is cinnamon and this is grape, so that's two of our new colours. I've got a sage and sage background for this one. This one is green apple background, and this is our gorgeous new wood paper. And I try and cut it out on the Cricut so that the designs all flow through and match up with the wood panelling for the doors and the windows. So I hope you've enjoyed watching how I've put these together, and you might have fun with these interactive cards. And thank you so much for tuning in. I've had a blast creating these, and I'm glad that what I had in my head has come out to play, as it were, in real life. As I said, I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye for now.